Hey, what is going on, YouTube? It's the brain of the mainframe, Nile Scala here for another exciting episode of Crowdfunding Comics. As you can see, I'm flying solo. Our good pal Billy Tucci is prepping and getting ready for San Diego Comic-Con. He was going to join us tonight. He may still join us tonight, but he's having issues getting everything ready. So he's trying to get all of his gear, everything set, packed up. He's over at the place to have everything shipped. They're holding him up. He's going to be late. He still has to pack, and they're going to be flying out tomorrow. So hopefully our good friend can pop in, but if not, we have an awesome guest tonight. A gentleman from across the pond. He's a scholar, he's a gentleman. Really excited for his project, to talk about his book. We've been following his project for a couple weeks now. Finally got him on the show. So let me get right down to it. So welcome, crowdfunding centurions and crusaders across this mighty nation and overseas. Tonight is our 34th episode of Crowdfunding Comics. Our guest tonight has stopped by after watching an entire marathon of George Romero's zombie movies, kicking arse, and taking names of werewolves, then going to the local pint shop and throwing back a few with Sean Connery. So without further ado, everyone, let's welcome Mr. William Hazle. William, how are we doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing good, Nile. How are you?
I'm doing well. Cheers, my friend from across the sea. William, we're so happy to have you on tonight. Myself, Frank Amazing's over here, our assistant producer, getting things going, keeping things moving. And, Billy just wants to say hi. He's so happy that you came to join us, and he's so sorry he couldn't be here. And, you've got some time left on your campaign, so we're going to get you back on so the man can chat with you. So thanks again, man. Really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah.
So, William, let's get down to business. Let's learn a little bit about your origin story. How did you get into comics? When did it start?
I guess I started reading by reading comics. Essentially, my family would read comics to me before I could read, and that's how I could start reading. And I never stopped reading comics. So before I went to school, I was one of those kids that could read, but I thought every sentence started with "meanwhile ... but it's that kind of thing. And to this very day, I use exclamation marks far too much. So comics have really it's been the one entertainment that has been constant in my life. So it's my one go-to. More so than movies or TV or anything else, would be to kind of like think about a comic story that I'd read or wanting to read something new. So comics have really just been something that I've loved.
Now, which comics did you gravitate towards character-wise?
Well, it's kind of weird because growing up in Scotland in the 1970s, we had weekly comics that reprinted all of the 1960s Marvel stories. So we were getting Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, John Buscema, Don Hake, all the early 60s stuff, week by week rather than month by month. And it very quickly kind of like it grew. And at the same time, started getting the actual 70s DC and Marvel comics being flown over from America. So we'd be reading what was to us the modern stuff and the older stuff at the same time. So that's kind of like, it was like an osmosis of 60s and 70s Marvel and DC all at the one time. And at the same time, we were reading the weekly British comics, which generally tended to be war comics or just funny papers. So it was kind of like the Beano or the Dandy, which would be like cartoon strips, which would be comedy strips. And most kids would gravitate towards one or two of these, read them, and then roll them up and have sword fights with them. That kind of thing.
Keep it rolled in the back pocket.
Exactly. And so I there wasn't really any one comic because I generally just bought everything, anything I could get my hands on, I bought. And when I could reach high enough, the ones I maybe shouldn't be buying, I was reaching up and getting them as well, So the Vampirellas and the Creepies and the Eries, whenever I found them, I was buying those.
Nice.
So
now, when you were a kid and you're going and you're buying these books, I mean, what kind of, like, Here you have like the drugstores that you'd go to, almost like anywhere that sold anything, you'd have a rack, a spinner rack or something, but also local comic shops. I mean, was that the same for you growing up?
Yeah, it was just essentially, yeah, it was just like the corner shop. You would go to the same place you would go to buy. It was the newsagents, so you would go there to buy the newspaper, and they would have comics there as well. And what you did was, if you liked a comic, you got your mother to put it on a weekly order. So you would get that comic every week on a Wednesday when it came out. You would get that comic. Uh, didn't really have spinner racks. We had for the American comics, it was kind of strange. It was almost like a forbidden fruit that he would bring out a stack from under the desk, put them on the desk, and we would dive on them like piranha fish, trying desperately to get all the ones that had, make sure you get the brave and the bold,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, and then. Some poor guy would end up with Lewis Lane, But it's essentially we would just go in and say, "What have you got?" And it would be like a kind of like a special kind of like drug that he'd be pulling out and giving us all.
So which books were you guys fighting over, wrestling for?
It, generally, it was the Marvel ones. I think for most kids, but I did love a lot of the DC stuff. I liked because at that time you had the dollar comics, which were like about 100 pages, and they reprinted a lot of the 1930s and 1940s stories. So I loved getting a comic that would have like a Jack Kirby Boys Commandos or a Jack Kirby sort of Sandman in the back as well, and because I was kind of interested in the whole idea of decades of comics. And when I found the Jim Steranko book as well, and any kind of book to do with the history of comics, I just kind of devoured those. I like this whole kind of like idea that there was generations that were kind of being raised on comics, and there was definite kind of decades, not like the 1930s, but there was always that kind of bleed over like the mid 30s into the early 40s, that kind of thing. And you saw certain styles develop, and you would be amazed to see somebody like Jack Kirby in every decade doing something different. So, yeah, so essentially, for me, I kind of like the DC stuff because of that, but I was getting the Marvel stuff weekly. So I never understood the I'm a DC kid or I'm a Marvel kid. We never really had that when I was growing up.
You never picked sides. You guys just enjoyed whatever came in.
Pretty much. I think characters, people like certain characters. I gravitated towards artists as well.
Yeah.
So, because you saw Jack Kirby. I'd buy a weekly Marvel comic, a reprint in the UK, and it would be like an early issue of Fantastic Four. And then I'd buy a Forever People.
Yeah.
And I'd look at them side by side and I'd go, this is the same guy. And then it's a boy Commandos, and I go, this is the same guy. So it was fascinating. And I quickly began to just pick up on the artists and their styles and their quirks and the character of them. And people like, Don Heck and Jim Mooney and everybody really, John Buscema, Sal Buscema. And so you would just kind of look at this stuff, and you'd know the ones that you would look at as ones that you would say are like they're stylists, and you look at other ones and you say they're kind of realists, and you'd kind of like work it out in your head. And the weekly comics that we had created in Britain had a lot of Spanish and European artists working in them, kind of like the same guys that would be working for Warren. So you'd also be looking at these really quite intricate and illustrative artists, and the kind of the way a page was laid out in a British comic would be different than an American comic as well, because you're telling a story in maybe 3 or 4 pages, and it's a larger format with more panels per page. So I'd be kind of like taking all that in and just kind of like understanding a visual language was completely different even from one country to another. And to this day, it's kind of fascinating to see something that looks kind of new in comics. You look at it and you go, that's interesting, something different.
So the format then in Europe for the comic books is different than the ones we have here in the US?
For the weekly comics that we got, there weren't glossy covers.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there are now, but when I was growing up, there was pretty much the same newsprint inside that was on the cover. They were larger, more kind of like A4 format, and we even had one or two. There's one called the Topper, which was kind of like a broadsheet newspaper. You could fold it out and then read it. It was that large.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
So that was quite cool. But yeah, they were a larger scale, which is kind of the way that I do my comics. I do them in an A4 format, so they're larger than an American comic book, and they're more like the Warren comics, although slightly taller, or a Savage Sword, Conan, that kind of thing. The stuff that Marvel did in the 70s.
Yep.
But black and white. They were all black and white. All the British comics were black and white with the occasional page that had the one color tone added. So it might be a cyan or a magenta, just picking up certain parts. I don't know if I know that Terry Beattie did that on Mystery for a while when he did Mystery Eclipse, and that was quite nice. I thought that's the way they used to do British comics. It was kind of like a cheap way of getting some color in there.
Yeah.
I quite liked that. But yeah, mostly all black and white.
Oh, nice. And then, so, growing up, you're buying these books, you're getting Marvels, you're getting DCs, you're buying local properties. What genre were you gravitating towards? Were you big into the mystery, the horror, your classic superhero books?
I liked them all. I think for the superhero ones, I liked Batman, of course. I was reading Batman. Originally, I was reading the reprints of the old 30s and 40s stuff at the same time that I'm reading Bob Haney's just crazy Brave and the Bold stories, and but the one genre that I always gravitated towards more than any was the horror genre. And I think any other genre that kind of bled into it. So I loved the black and white magazine that Marvel put out with Conan, because it let them do a little bit more than they could in the normal monthly, and it had more horror elements to it. And of course, Gene Colan and Marv Wolfman on Tomb of Dracula. That's kind of like, that's the cornerstone. That's the pinnacle of what you can do in a kind of like a comic books code, sort of like a horror comic.
Yeah.
And still have the feel of a kind of superhero comic too. It was kind of strange that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that. And because we got your American comics kind of on a regular basis, I could be reading issues like 23, 24, 25, and then 28.
Yeah.
So you jump an issue or two, and you'd always have to kind of like try and fill it in, which was like,
yeah,
which was okay back then.
Yeah, I always gravitated toward, what I actually loved, and I'm a huge werewolf fan, was always Werewolf by Night. I love the way that read. It's like that horror theme, but it read like a superhero comic, so it almost like combined the best of two worlds, I thought, or the two genres, I should say. So now,
and of course, to actually have a character called Jack Russell as the Werewolf by Night is like only Marvel could have done that back then. I mean, I think that's fantastic.
Exactly. And so we've got a couple of guys in the chat here, and as you guys may know, obviously William is from Scotland. Some guys want to know what part of Scotland you're from, but also, guys, it's 2:15 in the morning there, so William has stayed up to join the show and to hang out with all you guys. So remember, if you guys have any questions coming up, please post them into the chat and we will get to them. So they want to stalk you, William. They want to know where you live. They want to send you fan mail.
Right.
So what part of Scotland? I'm not giving away your home address, but what part of Scotland are you in?
I'm from Glasgow.
Okay.
On the west coast of Scotland originally, so I'm a Glaswegian. But I now live in Dundee, or just outside of Dundee, on the other side of Scotland, and I've lived here since just before 2000.
Oh, okay.
Because I used to work in computer games, and that's a big industry in Scotland, and it's particularly big in Dundee. So the reason I live here is because I worked in computer games, and I now lecture in computer arts and computer games at Dundee College. So yeah, I'm Glaswegian.
Oh,
through.
nice. Now, if you don't mind me
But
asking, I mean, as a video game fan, I mean, what did you do in the gaming industry?
I originally worked on EA's Formula One games. So that was like
Cool.
theirs were F1 because Sony's were Formula One and EA's were F1. You know, you had they were competing.
Yeah.
And so I think I started on championship season 1998 was the first one. That was for PlayStation 1. That was the first one that I worked on.
Hmm.
And I modeled some of the track elements, modeled some of the furniture, the buildings. You might have driven past some of the buildings in Monaco that I'd worked on, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
And essentially, it's a sport that I really am not at all interested in, is Formula One. But if you're going to get into the games industry, it's a fantastic game to work on if it's your first
Yeah.
game because it's very much you are essentially trying to create what is there in life, you
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
as best you can. So there's really good discipline involved in doing that. And so I did that for a few years, and then I moved on to a number of smaller companies. I went straight from working in like a big AAA title like that to working on games for the emerging mobile game sector. So just games that were just slightly better than Snake.
Ooh, there you go.
But it was for the 3G network was starting up, so you were going to be
Hmm.
able to play full functioning games on your handset. And so I started working for some smaller companies that did that, and had one of the first games that was put out for the iPhone when it first came out. It's a strange kind of path to take. You start working on AAA games, and then
Hmm.
you see people looking at a emerging market within the games industry, and you kind of go, that's kind of cool because that's almost like going back to the start of the games industry where you're working on like 8-bit, 16-bit graphics to
Yeah.
create cool little games. And so that's kind of route I went until eventually it was working on a PS3 wrestling game was the last game I worked on, the last place that I worked. And then I just thought to myself, getting to be a bit too old for this video game stuff, because it's like I'm getting close to 50 and everybody else is like 18, 19, 20, and I can't be bothered with the long weekends. And so I
Yeah.
thought I'd tip my toe into teaching
Mhm.
and kind of like that. And so that's what I do.
Now,
I still keep a wee toe in video games,
yeah,
uh, but just the one toe.
yeah. So, and are you teaching video game
Yeah,
based classes?
I teach video game development at Dundee College on
Oh,
their
very good.
program there. So I basically, if you get a class with me, I'll be teaching you Maya,
Wow.
so Autodesk Maya. So it'll be modeling and animation in Maya.
Yeah.
Uh, and I also teach classes on because I'm actually affiliated to the art and design department there. So I teach classes on art and design using Illustrator, Photoshop, and all the Adobe suite, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Maya's a
day.
tough program. It is a tough program. I took a couple courses on Maya doing, like character design stuff, and it that is a beefy program. How do you find students can gravitate and basically assimilate to that software quickly, or do you find that they do have a struggle with it?
Good question. Uh, some of them love it, and
Hmm.
some of them hate it. The way that I teach it is very much a kind of case of like strip it because you're right. It's such a dense and complex application to use. It's just so much you can do with it. There's so much there. What I do is I strip it right back to um, the basics of like you just want to model something and texture it and then make it move.
Yeah.
And so I give them like little workshops on doing that at its very basic, and I try and instill a sense of like adventure in them. So if they want to go a little bit further, well, let's look and see if you can take it that little bit further, so that they find a way to move almost
Yeah.
like slightly off the road to do something different, because they all want to sort of jump straight in and create effects and do fantastic things straight away without learning the basics. So I just kind of like, I try to kind of drill the basics into them, and some of them really like it. Others just don't. I think the problem with some people with Maya, especially if they're 2D artists and they're trying to get their head around 3D, is kind of like Maya has pretty much 4 ways of doing everything.
Yeah.
So you have to find your workflow and your way of doing it. And I wasn't really taught Maya. When I started in the games industry, they gave me Maya. I said, this is a new piece of software we're going to be using, because they were using Lightwave, I believe, at the time. And they said, learn it. So I just went, okay. So I got a book, and then I realized that you could turn everything off and just have the screen and then the pop-up menu. And I taught myself that way, because it was less daunting for me as a traditional artist to learn it that way. So there's a lot in Maya that I know about, but I'm not expert in. But I know where to get there and how to kind of maneuver my way around it. And I think that's the way most people are when they're using Maya. And I think as long as you get a student to understand that, it's like, what do you need Maya for? It's just a tool in your arsenal. What do you need it for? And then use it for that. And then they all want to jump straight into Mudbox and so on and start modeling. But I think when you understand low poly modeling first, then you can really kind of get to grips with the full power of what Maya does.
That's very cool, man. That's awesome. That's really cool. I had no clue about that, that you were teaching that and all that stuff. That's great. And what's funny about Maya is that's the only, I think, modeling software I still have. And I was like, I was going to mess with it. I set up my old studio computer, because when me and Billy started getting back into everything and, doing the video editing for his stuff and other things, I pulled out my old computer that has all that on it. And I was like, let me see if I can do some cool stuff with this. And let me tell you, for me, it was not like riding a bike. I was like, all right, I'm just going to go back to my Adobe suite. I'll use some of the puppetry tools and things like that, and we'll do some fun stuff that way. But yeah, you may get a couple of Skype messages from me, because I've been dabbling with it a little bit. And I'll just be like, hey, William, how do I do this? And you'll be like, Nile, it's 3 a.m. Leave me alone.
Right, no problem.
But anyway, let's get back on topic here. I'm running off on like a software rant here, but that's so cool, man. We'll have to talk more about that stuff. So we do have a couple questions here that I want to get in, because I want to try to get some of the questions in for these guys. So we've got let's see, Victor Rodriguez asks, what was your first pro comic work?
My first pro comic work, well, I suppose my only pro comic work is my indie comic work. And it feels odd thinking about that as pro comic work.
Was it published work? Was it published work?
Published work, yeah.
Then it's pro work.
Prior to that, I had written and laid out comics for some video games. So I'd written a comic strip for a Lego Batman game, and it went onto the iPad. So I suppose technically that was comics work in a way, because it was a comic strip within it. But the first one I did, funnily enough, if I just reach over here we go.
Tales of Mystery
and Imagination. Connoisseurs of the horror genre will notice that the cover is essentially based on Tales from the Crypt.
Yes.
Those of you who are even more connoisseurs will understand that the contents page is based on the contents pages of the Warren comics at the time. So I had left the games industry, was going to start teaching, but started up my own wee limited company to work in IP, and also to do, because I only teach during the term time. I don't get paid over the summer, so I started up my own wee limited company to bring in the odd wee bit of work to do some kind of game artwork and some prototyping for other people. And just on the side, I thought, well, I was doing the creation of IP. Let's do a comic book. Why not? I've always wanted to do comics. Let's do a comic book.
Yeah.
And I thought, you've got the daunting, this whole kind of like daunting thing ahead of you. Well, what do I do? I've got all these great characters and great ideas. And of course, you've sat in the pub talking to somebody and they've told you the novel that they're going to write. And 20 minutes later, they're still talking about the kind of village that their main characters live in, and you think you're never going to write that novel. So I thought I need to do short stories, and I thought I need to do stories that teach me how to do comics properly. I know what makes a good comic. I know what I like in a good comic, but I don't know how to do a good comic properly because I've never actually done it. So I thought if I take public domain stories and adapt them and give myself a page limit to do it, and that would be a really good kind of like learning experience. So that's what I did. So what I did was I did this Tales of Mystery and Imagination, and I did an adaptation of the Telltale Heart. Well, hey, okay, and I introduced my idea of the Crypt Keeper, which is the Tatibogo man. A Tatibogo in Scotland is like a scarecrow. So I have him introduce the story, and I adapted it myself. I got two of my friends, Gary Burley, who was a computer games artist. He did an adaptation of Dagon. I'll give you a quick blast. Very, very kind of like a Mobius style of artwork there, and another good friend of mine who's an illustrator and an animator, Kenny Anderson, did an adaptation of From Beyond.
Oh wow! Oh, that looks great, and the quality of the paper looks great.
Well, that's the thing. I didn't want it to look pulpy. I wanted it to look really quite classy and really kind of like, I'll give you some more. I wanted the colours to pop and the black to be solid. Because I'm the designer, I'm the editor, I'm the publisher, so I wanted to make sure everything was just spot on. It's PG-13 or whatever, but so I wanted to create. Oh, here we go. An adaptation of the comic Worm by Bartosz Maziak, who was actually one of my students. So once it got around that I was doing this, college said, would you like to include it in the curriculum? So I did. So we published 4 issues so far, and each issue has a story done by a student in the college who is working on it as part of the graded unit. So that was quite cool. Yeah. And 1 or 2 of them have carried on, doing comics. A friend of mine, an ex-student, Bex, she accompanies me to Comic-Cons and she sells her comics now. She's kind of caught the bug. Maybe share tables and share the costs that way. Yeah. But yeah, so that was the first comic I did.
Oh, very cool.
The last issue of that was issue 4, which is here. And the young lady on the cover won a competition at Glasgow Comic Con to appear in the comic and be slaughtered by the Tatibogo man. So she is duly wined and dined and then killed by the Tatibogo man, as are many other runners-up. God, this is actually quite a grotesque. So essentially, people won the competition, and I asked them, well, how would you like to die? And if they said, I'd like to be eaten by a shark, they were eaten by a shark. Wow. So essentially,
yeah. And who was the illustrator on that? I mean, that looks amazing.
That's me.
Oh, that's you.
All the Tatibogo man stuff is me.
Very nice.
Thank you very much. I tried to get as many different styles as Jamie Brady, as many different styles as possible. Yeah. Because what I loved about the old anthology comics, more so than the ones that you might see coming out today, was that you would have just totally different styles of artists. If you picked up a copy of heavy metal,
Yep.
you didn't know what you were going to get from one story to the next.
Yeah.
But the same here with 2000 AD every week, you didn't quite know, and it was quite exciting to see these different artists.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. I love that. Now, are these books still available? Do you have an online store? Do you have anything that these can be purchased?
These are the only copies left now.
Okay.
Just about sold out at Glasgow Comic Con a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know if I'm going to publish them again as individual issues. But if AILSA Dark does okay, then I'll most likely Indiegogo them and do something with them, because there's some good stuff there.
Yeah.
And I'd like to do something that's maybe some kind of an omnibus sort of collection of the stories, and bringing the best together, or a themed one, because we do quite a lot of adaptations of Poe and Lovecraft in there. Maybe even just like a themed version of those with some new material put in would be cool, because I do have inventory stories that we haven't used yet. And so I could do something with those as well.
Yeah, there you go. Put them all together, and then for some special features or a stretch goal, add new stories.
You can get them in Comixology.
Oh, you can?
You can. I've tried to get them taken off, because I'm not actually because I want to do something else with them, and also I'm no longer. It's a long story, but it's dealing with Amazon.
Understood.
So, you know, I mean, it's a long story, but I just kind of like want them off. But all the letters have gone backwards and forwards, and they've agreed to do it, but they're still there, so I've given up. So you can get them in Comixology.
All right, so it's at Comixology if you guys still want them, but hurry up before they get pulled. But so we got another question here, and CD Merwin asks, did you ever get into the Judge Dredd comics?
Yes. I mean, all the comics I was talking about earlier. I mean, these are comics we were reading. I've been reading comics, like I said, since before I could read, because
the pictures.
My gran would read them to me an awful lot, because she would just kind of like sit with me. My parents were at work, and she would read comics to me.
Yeah.
So I was reading this stuff very early. We had a comic in the UK called Action. It came out before 2000 AD. And I was like 10 years old when I was reading Action. And Action was a comic that the newspaper started writing about because it was so extreme. It wasn't really, but you know, it was the 70s, and the newspapers then were just as outraged about things as the media is today. I was reading this comic, and what they did in this comic is they took big movies at the time, and they would do their version of that movie. So they would take Jaws, and they would do Hookjaw, which is a killer shark, but not just a big killer shark. It's got a hook coming out of his jaw that it impales people on as well. So they would always take it to a ridiculous extreme. It was kind of like, it was very punk. And so Rollerball was a big movie at the time, or around about that time. So they did Spinball. It was Rollerball with motorbikes with spikes on ice. So they would always find somewhere just taking it
take it to another level.
Another level, but also you know they were just being absurd and taking the mickey at the same time. So this was a comic that eventually got kind of like softened, not banned, but softened. But all the people that worked on it went on to create 2000 AD. So when 2000 AD came out, with Judge Dredd in it, I mean, that was kind of like an atom bomb for British comics. There's never been anything quite like that. I don't think there actually has been anything quite like 2000 AD anyway. You know, this was a kid's comic that was political and extreme and funny and incredibly varied with the kind of styles that were in there. And the big story at the time that everybody talked about was Dan Dare, because Dan Dare was a kind of like upright, square-jawed British hero from the 1950s, and they brought him back in a comic strip that was incredibly violent and not at all straight-laced in any way. It had aliens, bionoid aliens who had axes, and the axes had jaws with teeth in them that would bite you. It was all the kind of stuff that would give like the 1950s sort of creators of Dan Dare would be having a
Hmm.
fit. So, and that was meant to be the big story, that this Dan Dare was back. And I loved that story because an artist called Massimo
Hmm.
Bellardinelli drew it, and he was just an incredible draftsman. Um, Kind of weird with
Hmm.
anatomy, but so that was meant to be the big story. But then Judge Dredd came in issue 2 or 3 or whatever, I think it was. Judge Dredd came out, and straight away, I think every kid in the UK that read it, they read Judge Dredd and they went, "This is Clint Eastwood in the future,"
Oh yeah.
and he doesn't give an S. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
So straight away, and the whole idea, I think in one of the early issues, he took his helmet off and they had censored his face.
Yeah.
Just the whole censor thing across, and that kind of stuck with me. You go, this is just so different. This character's never been done before.
Yeah, there's an
Uh,
incredible documentary I think on it's either Netflix or Amazon Prime on the whole 2000 AD comics, and it's crazy. I mean, it was just like a rebel organization. I mean, they were just doing things that comic book publishing companies weren't doing.
yeah, yeah. I've still not. I've got the DVD of that. I've still not watched it.
Yeah,
I need to watch that. But yeah, it was. You could feel it as well. You knew it was something that was. It was more than just a weekly comic.
yeah,
Um, but it was the groundwork was laid in action and in battle, which was a war comic, because all the great 2000 AD creators like Pat Mills and John Wagner and Carlos Esquira and all these
hmm,
people were working in these comics, and some of that feel was already there in their work. They just took it to notched it up to 11 when 2000 AD came out.
yeah,
So I think Judge Dredd, in the UK, people who are Judge Dredd fans are very kind of protective of the character, and the
hmm,
and the character of Judge Dredd as portrayed elsewhere has not always been Judge Dredd.
yeah.
I mean, Stallone wasn't Judge Dredd.
No.
Uh, uh,
What was your take on the movies? Did you even enjoy them at all? Or were you kind of like, I can't even watch this?
yeah, I'm very forgiving with movies,
Yeah.
uh, because I remember watching Nicholas Hammond's Spider-Man, and shows like that when I was a kid, and
Yeah.
you're kind of like, that's not bad, I suppose. That's as good as we're ever going to
Yeah.
get.
That
So
rope, the rope that shoots out.
exactly, yeah, and there's somebody up there kind of like pulling them up like that,
Yeah.
coming up the side of the building.
Yeah.
So I kind of, I'm to this day, I'm quite forgiving with superhero movies and stuff, but Just Dredd was not a superhero. It's never been a superhero. Uh, so. But I like cheesy Stallone movies, so I was conflicted.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of enjoyed the movie, but it wasn't a Just Dredd movie.
Nah.
It also wasn't a good movie because it was all over the place.
What'd you think of
But it had,
Dread?
Dredd was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
You think that was
If you,
closer to the comic book?
that's spot on. That's Judge Dredd, and it's also Judge Anderson. They've got them down to a T.
Hmm.
And it was a brilliant idea to do it as a kind of like a block war and contain it all like the raid and just contain it in this one place.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it in 3D.
I haven't seen it in 3D. It wasn't an option for us at the time.
Oh, yeah, because it's one of these films that was made to be seen in 3D, but it was hardly ever released anywhere in 3D. It looks amazing. It's one of the best 3D films I think I've seen.
Oh,
Um,
awesome. So I
yeah,
want to
but
jump. I'm going to jump into just another question here. Um, and this one I'm not sure of. So Matt C, who actually asked the question on 2080 Comics, but you gave such a great explanation. He chimed in and said he did a great job. Don't ask. Wants to know also what do you think of VR Ray? V Ray? I don't know if I'm saying this right. He's got a capital VR and then Ray question mark. Do you know what he's talking about?
like,
Like
what?
VR, like
Well, virtual
virtual
reality.
reality.
Virtual reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that? Oh, yeah.
VR Ray it says so. Virtual reality, maybe he's talking
If it's
about.
if it's virtual reality, I love virtual reality. Yeah. I think VR is amazing, and I can't wait to see what's coming down the road in the next few years. I guess. I mean, if you've tried VR, have you tried
I've tried VR, yeah.
yeah, and
Uh,
you get that the minute you put it on, and
You get
if you're in an avatar where you look down, you can see your body.
hmm
You shake your leg. You do it because you think your leg's going to move in the game.
Oh, it's
Uh,
the rendering software for Maya.
oh, right, okay.
That's what it. Okay, now Matt just chimed in. I know what he's talking about now. All right. At first, I thought we were talking about another like maybe a European comic company or something.
Right. No, it was just VR.
Yeah.
You sound a kind of fuzzy to me as well.
Oh, I
When you're
apologize
talking
for
there.
that.
So, say something.
So is that any better?
A wee bit. Yep, that's a wee bit.
Okay.
But it's okay. You just sound. I
Sometimes
don't
I
know.
kind of like roll back and I'm going away from
Yeah.
the microphone as I get comfortable. Well, usually I've got Billy on. Like my body's kind of used to, he likes to chime in and chat and go back and forth. So, but anywho, so let's move on to All right, so we've asked a few questions. We'll get back to questions, guys.
To
Yep.
answer this question, Mental Ray was the old renderer for Maya, which I quite liked,
hmm
and um, Arnold is the one that they use now, which is really good, but I've yet to get it to work properly.
Yeah. What about Blender? How do you feel about Blender?
Um, it's an incredible piece of software for people who like to use it.
Yeah.
Is what I think about Blender.
It's a
Uh,
political answer.
uh,
Very good.
yeah.
So let's get down to the nitty gritty. Let's get down to why we're here and what we're here to talk about. And that is your crowdfunding project, your new book. Um,
Yes.
and is it Elsa Dark?
It's AILSA Dark.
Ilsa Dark.
AILSA Dark. So ale as in a nice glass of ale.
There we
AILSA
go.
Dark.
All right. Excellent.
And
So let's get into this. So how did Elsa Dark become or came to be? How did the idea come about this? And what led to the crowdfunding project?
I wanted to do a story that was based around a character just like a traditional comic book. So there would be this character that have supporting characters around them. When I did Tales of Mystery, I was originally thinking that was going to be our host, the Tatty Bogleman.
hmm
But he's such a horrible, irredeemable character that I couldn't really do that. Um, so I thought, well, what do I like? I like action movies. I like horror movies. I like old shows like the Avengers, not the Avengers with the Marvel, but the Avengers
Yep.
with Emma Peel and John Steed and that kind of thing. So I thought I'd like to do a character like an Emma Peel or a Purdy, one of these kind of characters on her own and make her mysterious and put her into a situation that was dangerous and that only she could actually handle. So that was the idea. And then I thought, why don't I make her a late night horror hostess as well? Because why not?
Oh, like
Uh,
Elvira, right?
exactly. And I thought, so how do I tie these together? And as I'm working on it, to be honest with you, I 2.5 years ago, I did an entire issue. I printed it, and the Comic Con that I was going to go to with it, the weather was so bad here, severe weather, that it was called off. And I sat back and I looked at the print run and I went, I'm not happy with this. So I actually trashed that print run
Oh wow.
and reworked the comic again. So this comic has been quite a few years in the making, and in that time I've created quite a kind of like mythology around it. But I'm not making the mistake of making the comic about that mythology. It's not going to be like the man in the pub who talks for so long about the village that his troll comes from or whatever. This is going to be quite a focused comic, but it's based around the idea that there is another world. Every Everywhere you go in the world, people have their own kind of myths, but they're all very similar. And even kind of the monsters that we have now that are popular in popular culture, your vampires and the werewolves, they all come from some deeper, darker kind of myth. And I thought, so they come from this other place called the other world, and the other world, it coexists with our world, and there have to be people who protect both the people who live here from the folk who come from the other world, and also protect the people from the other world who live here and are kind of like peaceful people.
Yeah.
So, so that was kind of the idea. So in a way, she was kind of like a border control between the two worlds, and that's what she does. She kind of keeps the peace between the two worlds.
Oh, wow.
And in order to do that, she needs some kind of system where they communicate, and it's got to be social media. So she has a YouTube channel where she shows old B movies, and during that, people tweet about them and talk about them. But underlying that, there's actually people who are giving her information and asking for help, and all that kind of stuff's going on as well. But it just looks like people being daft and talking about the movie on the internet. So that was a plan, that was the idea. So I came up with the concept of the character and what she was doing, and then I just had to come up with a story. And I came up with the 3 stories. And this is the first one, and it's werewolves and bampots. And it's going to be 4 issues, and it's going to look like this. So it's the same format as Tales of Mystery. First issue was published and printed and sold at conventions.
Oh, nice.
And has gone under a wee bit of remastering. There's some reviews out there for the first issue as well, and I took on board some of the criticisms, which I kind of knew myself. It was like there were certain things in it that I'd rushed to get it to print so I could make the conventions. So for the Indiegogo, there's a wee bit of remastering going on, and there'll be 2 issues like that quality. I don't think I've got a. Well, I do have I've got loads of boxes of comics over behind me there, but. I've got a wee video up as well as part of the campaign that shows you like the size of this comic compared to traditional American comic.
So if you don't mind, I'll play the Indiegogo video for the viewers out there. All right, let's get into this. So we've got the video, world premiere video on Crowdfunding Comics for AILSA Dark. I love that music, man. That gets me pumped. I want to buy this book. That's great. I love your art, man. That is some great stuff there. Guys, seriously, check this out in some more detail after the show. Get on the link. Check out the book. Back this book if you can. And guys, remember, as always, if you can't back a book, if the funds aren't there, or you know what, maybe it's something that you like, but you're like, I don't really want it in my collection, just share it. You know, you may know one person, you may know 30 people that are going to back this project. So get on there, back this thing. This thing looks gorgeous, William. Like, this is awesome, man.
Thank you.
And did you draw? And so you drew everything here, right?
I do everything. Yeah.
You do everything.
Yeah,
I mean, I love this page right here. I love this. I love these werewolves.
That's I'll get it. So that's actually a double page spread. I'll show you the full double page spread.
That's awesome.
So
I just want to hang that in the studio. That'll just look awesome on the wall here.
The music as well. That's one of my ex-students, Scott Lodge. He did that track for me. I asked if he had anything that he could give me, and he had that lying around. So.
So now this is your first crowdfunding project?
Yeah, it is. It's interesting because I wasn't sure about how I was going to approach crowdfunding, and I watched your show last was it last week with Doug Ernst?
Yes, Doug
And
Ernst.
I
Yep.
watched a few shows where people talk about how you have to build up your base before you do the crowdfunding.
Mm-hmm.
And I've decided to do it the other way and try and build a base through crowdfunding. Uh, so essentially, I thought what I'm going to do is I'm going to crowdfund the first two issues of AILSA Dark
Yeah.
and use that to get myself out there so people kind of know who I am, what my style is, and what it is I'm doing with this. And hopefully build enough with this first one to kind of like build on later with other campaigns, because I've got Tales of Mystery that I want to do as a crowdfunder after AILSA Dark's completed, and I've got two sequels to AILSA Dark in mind that I want to do as well.
Yeah.
And there's also the whole kind of tie-in to the old B movies. That's not just a kind of wee gimmick. The second book of AILSA Dark does actually have characters in it who have appeared in B movies in the 50s as themselves in the comic. So there's lots of things I want to do with this. But yeah, I thought I'm going to use the crowdfunder as a way of getting myself known, getting out there, hopefully get some followers. If people like it, that's great. I set I'm asking for, it's £800. I think it works out about £1 grand. Yeah,
So it's $1,000.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that's it's doable, but I'll make it flexible because even if I don't make that, I will be printing a second run because I've sold most of this first run at conventions in the UK already, and people will be waiting for the second issue. So yeah, I'm kind of like just putting my toe in doesn't really work for me, so I've just decided to jump right in to Indiegogo, the first campaign, and just see how it goes.
Now, so a lot of I'll ask creators, what's the thing that what was the worst experience you had with your crowdfunding poster? What is something you learned that you'll never let that happen again, and tell other creators who are crowdfunding the same thing? And the biggest thing that always comes up is shipping. Have you looked at now? How are you going to go about it? Because obviously they're like, oh, well, the cost to ship from here to other countries is so expensive. What is your are you running into that same process of, oh man, to ship, overseas is going to be so expensive? And I noticed, and sorry, I'll let you answer the question. I'll stop talking soon. But I noticed some creators will charge the shipping after, while others try to factor it in. What is your shipping process going to be?
For the actual shipping of the books, so the cost for the shipping of the books, I'm going to have everything shipped together in the one package. So what I'm offering is essentially two books in this format. If we make the stretch goal, you'll get an A5, which is of course half of this size. You'll get an A5 book in 3D of the Tatty Bogleman, so emulate the 1950s 3D comic. Plus, cool. You'll get, if we go even further, you will get a mystery comic, which I'll tell everybody about if we ever get to that money. So they will all be sent together. I've got on my campaign, I show a little box. I do sell some of my own collection on eBay every now and then. So I use these wee boxes to send them in because I have got stuff that I've bought from crowdfunding before, and you've maybe paid a fair wee bit for the postage and the packaging, and it comes through the letterbox in an envelope. It's looking as if it's been kicked from here to Timbuktu and back again. I've got these boxes and I'll be using them. I've already put comics in and weighed them and worked out the shipping. And so what I've done is it's all honest as far as I can go, and this is what the shipping's going to be, and then I shaved £1 off of every bit of shipping to make it just that little bit more enticing. So I've kept my shipping costs down as best as I could. I've not done anything like trying to add them to the cost of the comic or that, because what you're getting is like a pretty good product for one of the cheapest prices I would say you can get on Indiegogo.
Hmm.
And I've thrown in a digital version as well, but not too cheap, cheaper than the printed one, but it's much more affordable for people because even with cheaper postage, so I think it's something like £12, whatever that works out in dollars, because I can't see the dollars. I won't ever show Indiegogo won't ever shows me in pounds. So whatever that works out for you guys in dollars.
Yeah, we got it right here on the screen for you.
Cool.
So right now, the featured backing package, right? The Dark Deluxe, that'd be $34. USD. I almost said USDA. Then we've got the digital only is $18. Copies 1 and 2 are $23. Then your Dark Double's $45. AILSA original artwork is $150. That's still open. Only one claim, guys. One claim gets some original artwork. And I mean, you guys are seeing this. I mean, this is beautiful work. I mean, William is a phenomenal artist. I can't wait to see what you've got down the pike with some other projects, man. You know,
Yeah,
I love your style. I really do. Now, do you do your coloring?
I do everything. Yeah,
You do absolutely everything on this
I do
book.
absolutely everything. If you go further down, you'll see I've got a process page down there for one of the pages. I'm
Oh,
kind
here
of
we
like
go.
working.
Okay.
So I work on. There was probably 3 or 4 sketches and drawings before I did the final page on this. And one of them was actually a finished page that I didn't use. I just didn't like it once I'd done it. So I am quite bad at just trashing something that's completely finished that other people look at and say that looks good.
Yeah.
If I don't like it, I will trash it. And I
Yeah.
did it on that page. I use models, it's people that I know,
Yep.
and I try not to make it look as if I'm just drawing from photographs. So I never trace them. Always can just have them next to you on the. It's all digital,
Yeah.
so I'll have them next to me, like pinned digitally next to me as I'm working,
Hmm.
working from the photographs. I redrew the cover to the first issue because the cover on the first print that I put out was done so many years ago. It wasn't quite fitting in with the style
Hmm.
that I was working with, especially into the second issue, because your style's changing as you get quicker and you begin to realise how you're working. So what I do now is I thumbnail the page, or even just pull in images. So if I've
Hmm.
got 2 people talking in a bar, I'll Google 2 people talking in a bar, stick it in there, and just fill out my pages with thumbnails and drawings and images like that. And then I write it, or I've written it beforehand, and I'll letter it. So I've
Hmm.
got the entire second issue pretty much lettered and laid out, but I haven't drawn a single thing. Now, because I'm doing everything myself, the
Yeah.
lettering's always the last thing to do,
Yeah.
and that's where all the wee mistakes creep in. So
Hmm.
that's not going to happen on this because I'm going to make sure that the story is written, and I'm going to hand it to people to proofread for me and to read. They'll wonder what they're getting because they'll be
Hmm.
looking at stick figures like fighting each other with, professional lettering over them. Uh, and then once I get that sorted, I'll work on the artwork and
Hmm.
and get it done that way. So I don't know if anybody else does it that way. I doubt it very much, but that's how I'm doing. And I tend to be like a 1970s writer. I like to be a little bit melodramatic
Hmm.
every now and then with the language. So working in the larger format lets me do that. It gives me that space for a bit more dialogue. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, no, I mean you're a one man band, but you're putting together a great show. I mean it looks great.
Thanks,
Now, how
thanks
are
very
you
much.
finding the coordination though? Because obviously, if the marketing department's in full swing, then the shipping department's not doing anything, and then your PR department and your artist. So how are you finding handling everything soup to nuts on your end?
Uh, Luckily, I'm not working right now.
Mhm.
We are we're doing lots of work on our property and so on. But I can work until 3, 4 in the morning right now and
Mhm.
not have to worry about getting up and going to college the next day and teaching a class. So I plan on getting all the pages drawn by the first 2 weeks in August. And then that gives me, because the campaign I've got there, I have it down for, I think it's December. I originally had it down for November, but then I saw it was either, I think it was it Ron Rando, I think it was on your show. And
Yeah.
because I'm listening to all these people, and he was saying that he was giving himself to November to get this done, and I went, James, if he's giving himself to November,
Oh yeah.
maybe I should push mine back a little bit because I don't want to be late with it.
You know what? You're
So
always better off, I would say, go out a little further. And then if you exceed that delivery date,
yeah,
all the better for everyone.
yeah. I mean,
Especially if you're doing everything.
yeah. I mean, I'll get it done for. I know I'll have it done for November.
Yep.
But giving myself that buffer, I don't want people hanging about and thinking they're not getting it. So I thought I'll give it to December. The drawing is probably the most tedious part of it.
Oh yeah.
It can be the most enjoyable, but it's the most tedious. I tend to get caught up in one page, and then that becomes the page that dictates all the pages around it. I can't suddenly I find I'm on a page that's not got much there, or I'm being too sketchy, and so I'll go back to it, and do something with it. So it's quite tedious. I always say I don't really enjoy drawing, but I do it.
Yeah.
And it's always amazing because one thing I've learned is absolutely no matter what you think about a page that you've done, somebody buys the comic from you, and then they come back later on at another convention, and they say, "I really loved that page where the guy was dangling off of the edge of the cliff. Oh, that was so good." And you think to yourself, that was the worst page I'd drawn in that issue. It's like the deadline made sure I had to get that page done, but you can't actually second guess what people are
Yeah.
going to think about your artwork, and I think that's what a lot of people don't realize, and maybe that's what holds them back. So you have to just create the pages to a level that is consistent and as professional as you can do, and then when you get them out there, the audience will tell you what they like, and it's all very subjective.
Oh yeah. And as you know, as an artist, I mean, you can't critique your own work. I mean, I know when
Oh,
I'm drawing or working on something, I really can't. Everyone's like, "Oh, this
yeah,
looks great," and I'm like, "No, that's not right." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, well, look at the shoulder here, or look at something on the face here, or that." And they're like, "We don't see it. It looks perfect." No, it's not.
yeah. I mean, I'm working on the original piece of artwork. This is one of the preliminary drawings for the original piece of artwork, right? So, uh,
Oh, beautiful.
so I'm working on this just now,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like I'll lightbox that and do another pass on it to correct all the things I don't like about it.
Yeah.
And then once I've done that, it's going to have a kind of like a tarot card sort of like background to it. And this is the original piece of artwork that's going to be the first AILSA original art tier.
Wow.
And this will then be scanned and digitally inked if I need to. I might not
Yeah.
even need to inked, but it'll be scanned and coloured as one of the prints as well.
Oh, that's
The limited
beautiful
edition
work.
print. So hopefully, another reason why I made it a longer kind of campaign for 60 days. One, nobody knows who I am, so I need to spend a lot of time out there kind of trying to get people to trust me. And so
Yes.
fast, you can deliver. And two, I can start doing stuff like this, this drawing, and people can see it as it progresses. So, I mean, what I'm doing with you here tonight, this is like, so if I
Yeah. Oh, no
bought
problem.
myself a microphone with a cover and everything, and I'll most likely that's me. I have to do YouTube now, you know.
Well,
So
you should get on the shows. If any of the other hosts are watching, reach out to William, get him on the show, get him talking about his book. There's a really great indie community out there. Indiegogo has a lot of great creators and a massive a group of supporters. I mean, there's just now is the time. I mean, like as you can see, all the tools are out there. I mean, you don't have to work for Marvel. You don't have to work for DC, Image, anyone. I mean, you can literally do all this on your own. And the tools really don't cost much money as long as you own a computer. I mean, you can pretty much get everything you need. So
yeah,
I mean, it really is. That's why my thing. Hashtag our time to create. That's my new thing because it truly is. And that's, William. That's why we started the show, is because we were so passionate about what other creators were doing, what we had lined up, what we wanted to do. That it was like, you know what? While we're doing our own creations, let's spend a couple nights each week and highlight other creators and try to not even teach, but just let's discuss crowdfunding. Let's discuss processes and projects and get to know, other creators that are out there. Just trying to get a different outlet
Yeah,
to
no,
spread our word.
what you guys are doing is great. I mean, that's why I really kind of like, I'm so happy to be on your show here, because it is just very much about getting to know the people that are creating the comics and what ticks, in their head, how they work and what it is
Yeah,
that they're producing. And like I say, I've been getting pointers listening to the shows and what people have been saying, and it
that's great.
helps. It's help. One thing I've found out is that I do have a secret perk that I sent out to everybody that bought the comic at conventions, which would allow them to buy the second issue
Oh yeah.
if they didn't want the remastered one. And very few people bother pick me up on that at all, because the secret perks don't show up, when on the screen. They only show up for these people.
Yeah.
So I've learned quite quickly that convention buyers, not necessarily the same people who are going to be buying on Indiegogo or Kickstarter, because they
Right.
like the face to face, the contact of
Hmm.
going in there, chatting with you and buying it from you. That was a wee bit of an eye opener there, because I did expect maybe some more pickup there.
Hmm.
But at the same time, that's quite cool, because I never know I've got that market when I take the print run to a convention as well.
Oh yeah, I mean everyone. Hey, they want to go there. They want to see you. They want to talk to you. They want to hold the physical product, talk to you about the product. But what's
Yeah,
great is now you're doing your first crowdfunding project. And what's nice is your books are basically a good portion of your stuff's done or in the process of just needing to go through the normal motions. You don't really have as much thinking or starting off
yeah,
with just a few images and then saying to your fans, oh well, I'm going to need 6 months to get everything done. 3 months is reasonable. 4 months can be reasonable, depending on the package you're giving. And what's cool too is now like you're reaching to a greater audience. So
yeah.
it only as long as everything's done right, it only goes up from here. But I will say, social media, you have to Twitter every day. Facebook's still actually pretty relevant when it comes to buying comics and getting it out there. And that's the thing. Not only doing the crowdfunding, but get on these shows. Keep post on Facebook every day. Post little videos if you can of yourself, like, hey, this is me working on a piece of the project. Get on Twitter, show progress photos, draw people in. And that's going to be your biggest fighting force is the social media and getting people on the bandwagon and guys like us who love what you're doing and helping spread the word out there. And we'll keep
Yeah.
doing it until your campaign's over.
Yeah, that's what I'm planning on doing. Now that I'm set up, because I've kind of I've not had a proper workstation for the past few weeks to work at. But now that I am set up to start working solidly again, yeah, I'll probably start posting the odd wee. I like doing the little 59-second videos, because you
Yeah.
can get them up on the old Instagram as well.
Yeah.
Just something quick that you get out there for people. But I'll probably do some more long form stuff too.
Now, are you like me? So I was in the same boat. I had my whole studio set up in a portion of my house, and then I was told set this up down here. And we got I used to do it out of like an office, right? The show, and now I have the whole rig and everything. So I went into the basement of my home, and then I couldn't create. Like my space wasn't right. And
Yeah,
my wife's like, "Oh, well, you got the whole run of the house. You've got your drawing studio here, your video studio and recording studios in the basement." I'm like, "But you don't understand. I just can't create.
yeah,
I can't sit and draw. It doesn't feel right." But once I got everything set up, like my mind's like moving, moving, moving.
yeah.
And I'm just so particular about my space. And as an artist yourself, and you're talking about getting your space together, are you the same way, or can you just create anywhere?
Oh God, no! I can create anywhere, because I'm used to working in the games industry, where
Hmm.
they'll stick you in a cubicle and say do this, do that. But that's not the same kind of creating as formulating your own ideas, stories, and characters, which is what we're doing
Yeah.
here. I need to have a space that is clear.
Mm-hmm.
This is the thing. I need to have a window, that I can see where I'm working. So I need to be able to kind of like turn over and look out at the world
Yeah.
and then turn back to my work. Um, if I'm going to work, and I don't like right now. There's still a wee bit of clutter. I don't like clutter. I don't like. Shouldn't have the action figures or anything on the desk where you can see them. Put them in the bookcase behind me. That kind of thing. It should only be concentrating on the stuff that I'm working on. So
Mm-hmm.
I've only got my comics on the desk that I'm working on.
Yeah.
And I don't even like to look at stuff that I like close by. So, for instance, when I did the Telltale Heart, I made sure I didn't look at any comic strips that had been done beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
Now I knew I'd seen ones beforehand, and I still had those images sort of floating about in my head. But I figured if I'd looked at any artist's work beforehand, it would just it would be like somebody coming along with a little kind of like a knife and just kind of like niggling me with it, just gently kind of like
Yeah.
poking me with it, and you sure you want to do that?
Yeah.
So I don't have anybody else's, so I'm just kind of like, you need to be a little bit of the ego has to come in, and you have to look at your own work and see
Mm-hmm.
what's good in your own work and build on that.
Yeah.
So I surround myself only with the stuff that I'm working on, and make sure there's nothing that will in any way be on the desk that would distract me.
Oh, there you go. What are we drinking tonight?
Give or take one or two things. It's there you go.
There you go.
It's
Ooh,
a 16-year-old single malt.
beautiful. I
Uh,
wish you could just pass that through the screen, but I can't.
I,
I can't
I would
reach it, you know.
I would if I could, man.
Oh man, that's great. So let me
Uh,
ask. So let me ask you. Now on another topic, what is your thoughts on the state of? Do you follow the comic book industry and what's going on, or do you more just focus on creating your own stuff?
do I follow the comic books industry and what's going on? Um, yes, I suppose. Well, I'm on Twitter, so I have to, whether I want to or not.
Yeah.
Uh, I it's a weird one because I don't like knowing so much.
Hmm.
Now we know so much about. It's like I say, I used to look at Kirby's work for the 40s, Kirby's work for the 50s, the 60s,
Hmm.
the 70s, and see this genius in the work that he did. And I'd have the odd little kind of like editorially based piece at the back that he's written and stuff, and you'd piece together the idea of this man. Now you go on and people are just throwing themselves at you. This is me. This is what I am,
Hmm.
and it's hard detaching the person from the work that they're doing.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do
Uh,
understand what you're saying. Yeah.
it's kind of hard to formulate in words, but it's kind of like I think there's too much of a kind of like a cult of personality around comics
Hmm.
now, and the majority of the personality. I'm not going to be working for Marvel DC, so I'll just say this: the
Yeah.
majority of the personalities are famous for 15 minutes,
Yeah.
you know, and they get a lot of people get annoyed,
Yeah.
and there's lots of arguing. So I just don't bother. Um,
Hmm.
it's only recently I found out I was blocked by an awful lot of comic book writers
Really?
uh, when when I was looking at my Twitter feed, and I got all the kind of grayed out ones, and I'm like, what's
Yeah.
going on here? What's going on here? And you visit them and you find that you're blocked by them,
Oh
and
wow.
and you think, okay, fair enough. I've never actually looked at your work before, and I think that's what you're talking about. There's maybe because I'm some of the people that I follow, or whatever. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's a but this whole idea of block bots blocking people
Yeah.
just randomly is very, very weird.
Yeah, it was it
Uh,
was it was funny. Not, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. So it was funny. Another creator I know, and we were talking today about an event that's going on at a convention. And started getting backlash by some of the people that are going to be on the panel. And I was saying to him, I was like, I don't really understand. I get, back in 2012, 2013, things were kind of crashing in the comic book industry as far as politics and stuff. And then obviously, politics became very heavy. But it's like, why the divide? When did this divide come to be? And, it's interesting. I mean, you as a creator is in a career. If something happens that affects your livelihood and your passion, people get mad. They get insecure and, can act out of character. But you can't hold that against these people forever. I mean, this is their livelihood. If someone took your job away because of, let's say a personal view or opinion which you don't reflect on, I mean, it's scary. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. And, now they're almost pegged and have classified as something because of an event that was affecting their livelihood. And I have to say, I can't say names, but I do have to say I'm glad the outcome at the end of the day turned out good. And that was kind of expressed and said, but I'm really hoping that the divide goes away and the industry becomes about fun, comics, and escapism. And I asked you this question because of, because you are, you're in Scotland, you're in another country. And I don't know if these comic politics are affecting your area, your part of the world as much, or if it doesn't.
I don't know. I mean, Scotland, and I come from Glasgow, is a very working class, very kind of like left wing sort of like part of the country, and it's we tend to be sort of like left leaning, but politics and comics are kind of like, they've always gone together for me, right? Reading comics that were political or written by people who are political, I've always done it. If you read British comics, 2000 AD is very political. Crisis, a comic that came after it, very political as well. And they're all either very left-leaning or very cynical, punk, sort of like almost nihilistic, in their approach.
Nihilistic?
Yeah, nihilist. Hey. Here we go. but I'm reading stuff that when I'm like late teens, early 20s, that you kind of half agree with, half don't agree with. Nothing wrong with that. So I don't quite get the kind of like no politics thing in comics until you look at perhaps what they're doing at Marvel. And then I can understand it. When you use established characters and that, I can totally understand it. So I'm kind of like I'm on Indiegogo, right? So there's this whole kind of thing, because you guys mention it. I mean, I think Billy usually says to people, are you Indiegogo only? Some people are Indiegogo only. Some people are Kickstarter. I'm on Indiegogo mainly because I don't need to make my target. And I thought I can still do this comic with half of what I'm asking for, and people will get something. And also I had good customer service with Indiegogo, and I had bad customer service with Kickstarter in the past. So these kind of things they'll kind of weigh in your favour. But I'll be honest with you that there is a perception that if you go Indiegogo, you're of a certain political bent. If you go Kickstarter, you're of a certain political bent. And I think that's probably 70% true. I don't know. There's a percentage of that that's true. But what annoys me is that it's there at all. I just don't get it, and I can't get my head around it. It's very weird. Maybe it's because I'm not in America. But the thing is, I completely understand what's going on. I completely understand about the culture war that's going on. But I just want to make comics.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Just make comics, have some fun, right?
Yeah.
Go to conventions, meet fans, meet other creators. That's what I love about the whole comics,
Yeah.
community. Some guys don't like that I call it a community, but just the gathering of creators is there's nothing like it. You
Yeah,
know?
it's kind of well, if you use community in the sense of just like people that come together
Yeah.
with something to share, people with different backgrounds and all this kind of stuff. I have a problem joining things. I'm not very
Hmm.
good at joining. I don't like to be seen to be in a specific club or a specific team. It's like what is it? Woody Allen said he
Yeah.
wouldn't want to be a member of a club that would have him as a member, sort of thing. Uh, I only ever once joined a political party.
Hmm.
Um, and that was after let's get right into British politics here. We had a referendum a few years ago for Scottish independence.
Hmm.
It was a vote for Scotland to leave the United Kingdom and become an independent country, and we lost that vote by about, I think it was about 4% or something, whatever.
Hmm.
And I voted to leave. I was one of the people that thought we should be on our own as an independent country.
Hmm.
And afterwards, I joined the SNP, which was the Scottish party that was in power, which is the nationalist party that wants Scotland to be independent.
Hmm.
Um, and then, like 24 hours later, I sobered up and thought, why did I join a political party? You know, it's like because I was like so
In the moment,
driven
right?
by the whole idea
Yeah.
of like, yeah, I want Scotland to be independent,
Yeah.
and then I was stuck as a party member for a year, whether I liked it or not, you know.
Yeah.
But it's something I've never done for my whole life, and I wouldn't do again. I don't advise anybody to ever join a political party because you never know who's going to be standing and what they're going to be saying.
Yep.
Uh, but so I do understand that people get caught up in politics and driven by things that they really are
Hmm.
passionate about. But party politics isn't one of them for me. So
Yeah.
it's sad that it's there in comics.
Yeah.
I'm trying I'm trying so hard not to say things here, as you can probably tell.
Yeah. No, I understand, but I think we all get what you're saying, and
Yeah,
I know where you're coming at, and you do. You just gotta, just be happy, drink, draw, make comics, be happy, right?
yeah,
That's
exactly.
what it's
Yeah,
about. So, William, man, it's so we've been on for over an hour and 20 minutes. This thing flies by, man. I'm telling you, it's such a good
thanks. Yeah,
time. Guys, this has been so great having William on. I do want to we have a crowdfunding call out tonight. William, if you don't mind, I'd love to show it to everyone. What we have here is actually a discovery from Frank Amazing, one of our producers here, and I'll be honest, I'm exploring this one with you guys. Kyrie, the Curse of the Macedonian Scroll. So I'm going to play the video for you guys here. And this is a first for me. This came for me. Frank was like, hey, you got to check this out. Throw this on. Explore it with the fans out there. So here we go, guys. William, I think this is a first for you. Let's check
yeah.
this out. So, guys, we got Kyrie, the Curse of the Macedonian Scroll, Indiegogo video going live.
Hey everyone, it's Matt Crotts, and welcome to the Indiegogo campaign for Kyrie Book 1, The Curse of the Macedonian Scroll. It's basically Indiana Jones in ancient Rome. It's kind of a sword and sandal swashbuckling adventure. There's treasure, there's kind of a romance of the sands kind of aesthetic, and there's a attention to historical detail. It's stylized, but I like to spend a lot of time reading up on history, so I tried to accurately recreate the 3rd century North African coastline, cities to countryside. Deals with all kinds of wonderful stuff like mummified corpse of Alexander the Great that can be reanimated by means of a Roman death cult using their wily ways. Fun, weird, supernatural adventure. I think you guys are going to love it. Just go ahead and scroll through the images below and through this slideshow, and I think you're going to see a lot of great content. And hit me up if you have any questions. We're going to have a great time with this campaign. I think we're going to fund it, and if we can hit the stretch goals, I can double the thickness of this book. I can double the pages. It's very doable. The book's already done. The 240 pages is already done. We just gotta get this thing printed. So help me fund this thing, and we'll get a book into your hands pretty quickly. Thanks. Bye.
some nice stylized art. So they have 240 pages of this book already done. And if they can make goal, one of the stretch goals is to expand it even further. I know, William, I know on our end, we don't hear the audio there, but the audience does. But I mean, if you get a chance, check this one out. This is very interesting. As it says here in the overview, it's it's Indiana Jones in ancient Rome. Get ready for a high adventure trek through 3rd century North Africa as a team of treasure hunters and outcasts uncover the secrets of Alexander the Great on the frontier of the Roman Empire. And according to his video, he's done a lot of research on the history of this. And funny thing is, Frank just pointed out to me that I think the creator of this campaign has been watching the show. Yeah, it's the same icon, Frank. So that's what a coincidence right there. So yeah. Matt C in our chat is actually the creator of this Indiegogo. Very cool, Matt. If you're still in the in the chat, man, great stuff.
Yeah, it looks great.
To this. Wow. Yeah, it is. Yep, he just chimed in. Thanks, guys. That's my book. Very cool. Very cool. So, William, thank you again, man. I can't thank you enough. You've been a fantastic guest. Very informative. Fun to talk to, man. We're gonna have you back on. I know Billy would just freaking, be over the moon talking to you, and I'm sure he'll have a single malt or a whole bar lined up at his station, doing probably shots every 15 minutes with him or what have you. No, but he's a good dude. And like I said, again, guys, Billy's very sorry he couldn't make it tonight. This week is going to be a very tough week for Billy in general. So we do have a couple fill-in hosts this week. I have, if you guys haven't seen on Twitter, tomorrow night we have a Wyatt Holiday, who has a book out on Indiegogo that I'll be doing a show with. I may have a special guest for that one. And then Wednesday, I actually have a good friend of mine who is from Connecticut here, and he moved to Florida, Cesar Feliciano. And my guest host for that episode is my friend Ethan Van Sciver. He will be on as my co-host for the show, filling in for Billy. If Billy has time, he's going to try to pop in live from San Diego. But if anything, we will do some live streams from San Diego outside of the show. I think tomorrow night, I think they fly out in the morning, and then tomorrow night we will maybe do like a pre-walkthrough showing the setup of a con and, spying on other creators as they set up their space and seeing what's going on. So, I mean, this is the biggest Comic-Con every year practically. So, I mean, I think it'll be some fun inside footage we can get for you guys. And then that'll wrap it up for shows this week. Our Thursday show is going to be bumped to next week. That's with Adam Post. I think you and Adam actually like each other's stuff, William. Adam Post? Yeah. So we'll have him on. He was going to be on Thursday, but Billy can't make that show, and those two have history together, so I think it'd be great to get them. So me and Adam talked today, and we're going to move him to Wednesday of next week. So again, William, please let everyone know how they can follow you. Twitter, Facebook, whatever you have.
Yeah, just I'm on Twitter. I'm at actually Crawford_Hazle. I think somebody already had William, and my middle name is Crawford. So Crawford_Hazle, and if you look for AILSA Dark, just Google AILSA Dark. You'll get her on Facebook as well, and you can follow the AILSA Dark Facebook page there. But I tend to do most of my stuff on Twitter, but I'm also on Instagram as William Crawford Hazle, all like one word. But like I say, if you just go to the Indiegogo page, you'll find the links to my various social media there.
Very good. Very good. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, and we will see you again tomorrow night. William, thank you so much, man. I love talking to you. This has been great.
Pleasure.
Cheers to you. My bottle is empty, but
cheers. Yeah, I'm done for tonight as well.
I know. And for you, what? It's 3:30 in the morning.
It's 3:31. Yes.
3:31. All right, my friend. Well, let you get to bed. If you just want to hang out 1 second while we roll the ending credits, and then everyone, thanks. Have a great night. We will see you tomorrow at 9 p.m. So long. Hey guys, thanks again for tuning into Crowdfunding Comics. We look forward to hanging out with all of our crowdfunding fans every time we go live. And don't forget to click the link below and subscribe to our channel. And there's a little bell, you may want to hit that too. This way you get all the great notifications when we go live and when we upload some awesome content. You want to follow us? Sure, go right ahead at Twitter at CrowdFundComics with an X, Instagram Crowdfunding Comics, and Facebook at Crowdfunding Comics. Till next time, crowdfunding fans, we'll see you soon.